Alright guys, so today we're going to be looking at Greenbone or OpenVAS vulnerability scanner. Um, when I was looking into this, basically I was looking for the community version of this, but turns out they've changed the name, so now you have to do the Greenbone Enterprise Trial. So if you find this page right here on the bottom or towards the middle of the page, you'll see I use mostly Oracle VirtualBox. Right here there is a drop down for the download. It's gonna download, I believe, like a OVA right here, and then from there you should just be able to open up Oracle or VirtualBox, and you would just go to Tools and import it, and then from there you should be able to just next and set it up. If you do need help, there are more instructions right above that. There's all these instructions what to do after that, or basically, I mean, the instructions start from the beginning. So the whole setup in VMbox, and then what to do once you get to open up the actual virtual client. And so just follow those instructions, and you should get to the point where basically you are here. Well, once you log in and you follow those instructions too, you should be able to get an IP address. And once you have that, you log in. This is what the dashboard looks like. And let me go ahead and take my camera off so I don't block anything. Okay. So you are now at the dashboard. Basically, once I set this up, I had a couple virtual machines already here that I was just going to scan. Like, for example, I had this one called Ridiculously Easy, which was like a virtual machine from VulnHub that I was doing a CTF on. I figured I'd try that one, but I didn't really get that many, I guess, CVEs or vulnerabilities in there. There were a few, but I went ahead and just scanned Metasploit 2. I won't do another scan just because it takes a while, but I can go over how to do a scan. So this is what your dashboard looks like. This is basically all the CVEs or NVTs that have been downloaded from the community feed. There's an option within these instructions to request for like the enterprise feed, but I just went ahead and with the community one, so this is it right here. So if you want to set up a scan, let's say you got to this point and you are ready to just do your first scan. Maybe you have some other virtual machines, or you want to scan like actual computers in your network. You would just go to scans. You would have to create the task, so you'd go to task. As you can see, I have some already. And on top right left right here, you see where it says new task. Before you basically create the task, you have to create like the targets. So you'd go to this other star box, create a target, and from there you'd give it a name. So for example, as you can see on the left here, Metasploit 2, I just named one. That was my name for one. And manual, I just went ahead and put the IP address that you see somewhere here. And that's basically, oops, I don't want to cancel that or turn that off. You just do an IP address, give it a name. This is the default or all. So you can do like all TCP and Nmap top 100, or the default is all IANA, TCP and UDP. I just kept it as default and as default scan config. You do have the option to try to use credentials for SSH, SMB, ESXi, SNMP if you want to. I did not. So once you do that, your scan targets will show up here. So for example, my name, Metasploit. You click that, you would name the task itself, and I kind of just left this as a default. QOD is quality of detection. So from my reading, it's good to run different kinds of scans with different variation in QOD. some at 70, and then some at like 30 or so, just in case you end up getting some sort of vulnerability that's under 70% QOD, which QOD just means quality of detection. It's basically like the how likely someone or how likely this vulnerability can be exploited. So sometimes it's good to get like a range. So that's why I've heard it, or from what I was reading, and it's good to either do one at 70 and then do another one around 30. This I pretty much kept default. The scanner is OpenVAS. Full and fast is the default. You can also see more about what this means. I'll show you guys here in a second. So once you put a name, give a name to the task, and you save it, you should get something that looks like this. So you would just basically click this play button to start. It would go into a queue, and then after about 20-ish minutes or so, you would get a report that it's done. So I'm not going to show the vulnerable machine one because it really didn't show anything that interesting, so I'm going to stick with the Metasploit 2 one. As you know, Metasploit's pretty much designed to be vulnerable, and it's just used for hacking practice and stuff like that. So if you want like a good look at what a real scan would look like, or you should probably just install Metasploit 2 as a VM. Just make sure it's bridged and that you can communicate, your Greenbone, OpenVAS, Virtual Console, and Metasploit 2 are like on the same network. And so if we look at scans and we go to reports, as you can see, here's my report on the vulnerable one. But here is the report on Metasploit. So we got results, 51 results, one host, of course, it's the IP address of Metasploit at the time. I think it's different now, actually. Well, it was. I don't have Metasploit on right now, but that's what the IP address was. I'm sure if I turned it on again, it would be the same one. So it gives you kind of like an overview, all the results you got. So this is it. It's basically all the vulnerabilities that it found. The severity is basically how much damage can be done if someone were to exploit this. Here's the quality of detection, so how likely someone could exploit this if they were to find it. So yeah, 80% and having a rating of 10 is not good at all. It also tells you the location of like what port and protocol is being used under this vulnerability. So just a cool one. Let's see. FTP brute force logins. So as you can see, it's about 7.5, 95% quality of detection. So if you click on that, it gives you a summary. So it just says, it was possible to log into the remote FTP server using a weak/known credentials. Basically what it's saying is that, hey, this thing has a bunch of default credentials that can allow anybody to log in using FTP. And it actually gives you the list of all the ones that it found right here. So for those of you who have used Metasploit, MSF admin username and password is basically the default. When I did this, I didn't change anything about my Metasploit. I left it as is as soon as I installed it and just ran the scan. Just wanted to see everything. So it tells you the impact is pretty important, what can be done because of this, but it also gives you a solution. Like this one's pretty straightforward. Change the password as soon as possible. And here are all your CVE references, the numbers, and how to find those. So if you click on one, it'll give you a little bit more details. For example, it'll give you like the actual here. So just to show you what it looks like. Oops. Let me just try to. I don't have a login for this. Usually when I look at CVEs, I look at what's the one? Oops, that's not the right one. I look at exploit database. So like this is kind of mostly how I search for CVEs. But there's multiple websites for this. And there's a couple, just more information here. Unix account, guessable password. So if we just go back, we'll end up getting back here. Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Gives you a good rundown. All the CVEs that it found, in case you just wanted like a quick overview of that. Any TLS certificates, applications being used here on this host, all the ports that were open, and it doesn't tell you, it doesn't reference, I don't think it does, but it doesn't reference what vulnerability was found that's giving it a 10 here, but like 1524. So if I were to go to results, you should see that here. This is the one that it was referencing, but it just didn't tell you what it was. Possible backdoor. That's a good reason to have a pretty high severity rating. Those aren't good. And yeah, you can always download this report. Here's just more filter options, basically the same thing that we're already looking at. Oops. Pretty cool stuff. Here you can look at all the actual NVTs, CVEs, everything that Greenbone is using to reference all these. Gives you like a rundown. You can also go into, let's see, hold on. These are all the hosts. So one of these is Metasploit. The other one was that vulnerable machine. Just kind of keeps us like stores all the hosts you have scanned, all the operating systems that have been involved in your scans. You can also do configure scanners. So as we saw earlier, there's 2 scanners you can use. OpenVAS as the default, which is what I was running, or CVE. You can also create groups, users. I don't think I can in my free trial. At least I haven't tried yet. Create permissions for anyone. There's also an option, from what I've seen in other versions of it, I'm assuming like the real version of it, that you can actually assign or do create accounts using LDAP and Radius servers if you have those. And here's a user manual. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, that was basically really it when it comes to at least this version of the free trial that I was seeing. You can always create copies of tasks too, or like you can clone a task and then just edit it for later other reasons. So for example, I was saying earlier, you can do one where it only tries to find vulnerabilities of like 70% and up quality of detection. So if you could clone that task and make one where it's just 30 and that's like the only thing you change, that would be good too. This one just did a full one, pretty sure. Oh no, this one only did 70 and up. So I could run this task again and do one that's just 30 and up and probably find more stuff. But as you can see, Metasploit 2 is not very well, it's easily exploitable as the name suggests. So all sorts of stuff here. There's also, from what I was looking at other versions of it, there's ways that you can actually assign tickets to staff on remediating some of these problems. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it when it comes to it. Would be fun to use this. There's a way, if you want to do like a task where you basically scan the entire network, If you select scan targets, you can put, instead of just a specific IP address, I'm pretty sure you can do a whole like subnet if you wanted to. You can also upload from a file. So if you had like a file that you know, your company just has of all known IP addresses that it knows it's on its network, or specifically just servers or something like that, you can upload all those IP addresses from that file, and it would scan all of those individually. One of the things that you would want to make sure you can look at is, once you do that, is you would make sure that you can probably play with these numbers that basically says, hey, we're gonna do execute 4 NVTs per host, so 20 hosts, and really just this depends on how well this works, depends on how reliable and strong your network is. So just something to be aware of. And yeah, once you get to that point, like I said, you can export this task, you can export the actual report, you can export it as PDFs, I'm pretty sure, too, and you can go from there. So that's Greenbone as an overview. Yeah, pretty exciting stuff. So pretty easy to set up too. I mean, if you just, again, do the free trial version, it tells you everything that you need to do there. Again, I only had the community feed, because you can just log in that way. Let's see. Or you can just set it up that way. You don't necessarily need to do the enterprise feed, because that's like the actual 14-day trial is for that feed. I think this actual download, I don't know, but I think this download itself is free. It's just the actual enterprise feed that is the trial, from my understanding. But I guess I'll know in 14 days. And you can do VMware Workstation Player Pro if you wanted as well. And that pretty much covers it. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. And I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. You have a nice day.